The question of the morning is, what would you do? How would you respond if you found out you had 1 month to live? Would you live your life differently? Well, this is a book out. It's called 1 Month to Live. It's being, selling like hotcakes all across the country. An entire town in Oklahoma decided to take up the challenge. We're going to talk to some of the folks there and see how it has changed their lives.
Coming up, what if you had 1 month to live? How would you make every day count? One town's inspiring story coming up on The Early Show.
This morning on Early Across America, what if you knew you had just 1 month to live? That's the question asked by a best-selling book of the same name and a challenge taken up by dozens of churches across the country. CBS News correspondent Jim Axelrod reports from Clinton, Oklahoma.
The sign of the times in Clinton, Oklahoma dots front yards on just about every street in this town of 8,500.
Anytime you got that many people, that percentage of people involved, it's news in Clinton, Oklahoma.
Rod Surface, the editor of the local paper, has watched a quarter of his neighbors challenge themselves to live the next month like it's their last.
This is the kind of the common conversation at the coffee shop every day. What would you do?
Nearly 24 churches have banded together to get 1,500 people here to study this best-selling book, which presents one soul-searching thought a day for a month, with the goal of living a better life. What's happening here in Clinton, Oklahoma, raises a legitimate question that could be asked on every main street in America. If you really had 30 days left, wouldn't your to-do list include a few not-so-noble items?
How about you?
But Kerry and Chris Shook, who wrote the book, say the joke's usually over when people really start to think about the punchline.
At the end of your life, I've never heard anyone say, I wish I had my sports car next to me. I want to touch it one last time.
At the Richard House, boys will be boys.
I think I would want to go see the Yankees play in New York.
But mom and dad know better.
You feel like you've been down this road before?
In fact, it was kind of hard for me to get into this book because of that. 7 years ago, their 2-year-old son, Aaron, drowned, profoundly changing the way they lived.
Losing my son made me value my time with my family and a lot more than I had previously.
But time, as it often does, began to round the sharpest edges of their heartbreak. The lessons learned from Aaron's death: slow down, live simply, focus on family, they started to fade as well.
You've forgotten what you thought you would never forget, and that is what's really important.
Something their neighbors have been learning.
If you knew you only had 30 days left, you wouldn't say, well, next time I'll take care of that. You would do it then and there.
Like all the folks taking the challenge, they're discovering the deep benefits of living their lives as if theirs were ending. Jim Axelrod, CBS News, Clinton, Oklahoma.
And to check in and see how this all went, we're going to go to Clinton, Oklahoma right now and talk to some of the folks who took part in this 30-day challenge. Terrell Mitchell is a minister of education at the Clinton First Baptist Church. Becky Lyon, a nurse and mother of 2. Dr. Robert Blakeburn, a family physician. And Ashley Dobbs, a high school sophomore. Good morning to you all.
Good morning.
Terrell, let me start with you. When you first started to think about this, did you think about things that were maybe not necessarily particularly, were there things like, there's something I've always wanted to do that was really more personal and maybe less profound?
Well, we really got into it through the Ministerial Alliance and just trying to find something that the whole community could do that would really make an impact and intentionally really let God impact our life. And this was a book that we really thought would be great, and it really has been. And what was the most important thing you learned in this challenge? I would think my wife and I, we have 5 daughters, and you know, the book talks about a someday syndrome, and someday we're going to do this with them, and one day this, but it's really brought us back to be much more intentional in what we are really planning now to do with our family. And what's the best thing you've decided to do? We've got them spread out in 3 different states and all the way up to Chicago, and we've been telling our daughter in Chicago that, yeah, we're going to come see you, and we've determined this summer we're going to be in Chicago. Finally put the date on the calendar. All right, I want to move on to Becky Lyon now. Becky, how are you doing today?
Good, how are you doing?
How has this challenge changed your life?
It's made me more patient with my family. Definitely more appreciative of what I have, because it might not be there tomorrow.
Well, when the kids spill the cereal in the morning and all that sort of stuff?
That is every day.
Doesn't make you crazy
now
anymore?
Every day I don't cry over spilled milk anymore, and they don't cry either. So that's the important part. But together, we've come together as a family, and we've realized that that's the stuff that memories are made of, and life happens, and just to roll with it and to love each other no matter what, and to give our lives to God.
Dr. Blakeburn, this sounds like it's really been a profound experience for all these people who have participated. What was the big lesson in your life?
I think it's taking each moment and living as God would want me to, having priorities, and it's a thought process. It becomes a way we live, not just on Sunday mornings. It's how we live every day.
Is there a thing that you can say is different about you now than, say, before this challenge? You started this challenge?
Yeah, I'm going to simplify my life and get back to basics and quit living, spending the money that I have. It's going to be spending the money on other people. And spending time with my family that I don't always get to do.
All right, Ashley Dobbs, you haven't been around that long as some of the folks that we're talking to this morning. What changed most in your life after this challenge?
I was just telling people that to forgive other people for what I've done and ask their forgiveness, and just basically that's it.
There you go. Is life richer when you're living in this notion that if you were only going to be around for another month?
You don't know how long you're going to be on this earth, and you just want to, don't live any regrets. That's basically.
Live without regrets. That might be the lesson of the whole morning here. Thank you so much for sharing your stories with us this morning. We sure do appreciate it. And say good morning to everybody sitting behind you there. Thanks, everybody, for getting up so early today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Take care.